Chapter 6. Onward and Upward. The small town Louisiana girl would now be living the high life for real. Ben was an heir to a jewelry empire and was rolling in dough. The couple traveled around the globe enjoying the finest foods, clothes, accommodations, and experiences money could buy. She was basically worlds away from her life in Pecan Grove. Lillian suddenly had everything a girl could want, but just as suddenly came the pit in her stomach when she realized that she couldn't share her experiences with anyone who knew her when. Lou craved desperately to tell somebody of the time she met actual royalty, and she got all her utensils and curtsies correct. She owned beautiful imported china dishes and silver flatware with nobody who meant anything to her for which to serve a meal. If her parents were alive to see this, they would be so disappointed. Frankly, she was disappointed in herself. She continued dwelling on it periodically. Lillian often glanced at her well-carroted ring. She cuddled the mink stole she was wrapped in. She gazed in desperate confusion at the man who was crazy enough to marry her after having waited for her and that moment of consummation for almost 2 years. Lillian's own dishonesty and abandonment of her hometown, family, and friends unleashed in her a level of doubt in the sincerity of her faithful and accommodating husband. She was projecting her own ills onto him. Lillian had become someone else. Lying about herself was one thing when she was doing it to hold down the job she adored, but to lie to her husband, what kind of life would this be? Bobby doesn't lie to his wife about the white passing thing. Bobby only passes when people assume it and he doesn't correct them. Lillian tossed ideas in her mind while trying to decide the difference between reality and fantasy. She often she often couldn't distinguish between them anymore. She was so unfulfilled. She missed dance and her independent, carefree life. She missed her young life as Lou in Pecan Grove, with family and friends always around. Her childhood consisted of so much love, warmth, and support. There was always family there coddling each other. Now she had everything else anybody could imagine. She also had Bentley, and she was overly obsessed with him. But she was not feeling secure in the relationship. His parents also loved her immensely. However, she felt extremely unworthy of that love. Did he marry her because he felt sorry for her? Did he marry her so she could keep a house and potential kids while he traveled to work? Lillian's brain couldn't hold all the apprehension she tossed around. Well, it wasn't completely her fault. Why would a man of his status and wealth marry a 20-year-old orphan runaway with no family to speak of? She thought longer, and with more self-sabotaging. Why would he marry this young girl who had a lie she carried around with her? Lillian confronted feelings of guilt, loneliness, and skepticism almost unceasingly. To snap herself out of these negative thoughts, Lillian would remind herself of her good fortune and always compared her new life to her past life. Lou frequently conceptualized when she was 12 and visited New Orleans for her cousin's debutante ball. In New Orleans during carnival season, Mardi Gras crews have elaborate balls where female high school seniors come out and are presented to the social community as new adults. At these balls, one might find a queen and her court. This may include anything from maids, who are other debutantes, princesses, who are future debutantes, pages, who are young male or female children, and so forth. Some crews have kings, captains, and dukes. If the crew has a parade, these same folks ride in the parade. Not every riding crew has a debutante as their queen. At 12, Lou asked many questions about this tradition, as one would imagine. She failed to comprehend what these royal people reigned over. She asked her parents, "So, Evelyn is a maid to the queen. I see that, but what exactly does this queen preside over?" Her mother explained that she is the queen of this crew, just for 1 year, and next year another high school senior would be selected to be queen. "This queen will relinquish her crown to the new queen?" Lou questioned her mother more deeply. "So, who determines which debutante becomes queen, first maid, second maid?" Never impatient or on edge, Lou's mama just kept right on feeding the information to her curious adolescent daughter. "Well, each crew may work a little bit differently, but for the most part, it depends on how many relatives or ancestors the Deb has with this crew. In other words, the queen this year had two grandfathers who were past members in the crew. Her dad and uncle are current members, and her dad's sister was a past queen." Irritated at this, Lou shook her head and said, "So the more you have, the more you get?" Her mama couldn't argue with that logic, so she just hunched her shoulders, threw her hands up, and shut up. Whenever Lou felt feelings of missing home and family, or resenting the fact that she couldn't feel secure in her relationship with Ben, she consoled herself by minimizing her relatives in Louisiana in her mind. She would almost recite the same or similar mantras aloud for only herself to hear. "They're down there declaring themselves and each other royalty, and when the coronation is over, they get out on the dance floor drunk and shake their asses. I've met and hung out with real royals from 2 different countries. I have real class." No matter how much she belittled her kin inside her mind, her cousin Bobby would forever and always remain the undisputed top-ranked guy to ever grace the world, also in her mind. Lou and Bobby had often written lengthy letters and shared an occasional phone call, just as they had promised. However, since meeting Ben, traveling a lot, and starting college, the letters would wane to 0. Besides all that, Lillian told Ben all of her family was deceased and she had no known living relatives. Yep, another lie. What started out as a simple way to become a dancer with an all-white dance company turned into a wedge between Lou and her past that was becoming too wide and far gone to ever go back.